What is the story about the strongest hound in Monster Remake? What can we know more about the backstory of Liam, the Knight of Eden? Hello you beautiful monkeys, your boy Kadukun, and welcome back to the Kadukun channel, and we are doing our final video talking about my reviews of the last chapters of Monster Remake called The Knight of Eden. I wanted to do one more video and just breaking down all of the other chapters in one singular video instead of just doing single videos talking about each chapter, because I feel like that would just break the consistency of what's happening and it would just kind of lose context and the flow of how I'm going to be talking about the remaining chapters. But with that, let's jump into it with chapter 21 with the first part of Knight of Eden. Starting off with chapter 21, we are right after the big fight with Liam and Fane, and he is about to face off the consequences of him going into that fight and then getting a kill switch activated on him later on in that fight, and he is now going to be punished by going into something called detention in the Eden Academy. As we can see, this is some kind of crazy detention tactics. Liam is being put through some form of rehabilitation, reignition, realignment, brainwashing, something in essence where he's not exactly losing any sense of himself, but it's kind of forcing him to stay in line with of New Eden and the rules and laws that they have for the Hound program. And seemingly through this process, Liam starts to think back about his past from when he was a kid up to now when he's an adult. And in this chapter, we talk about him being a child when he's running around as a street rat. He has no home, he has no family, he has no friends, but he only has his best friend Luna, which is a go happy lucky dog right next to his side. And as you can see, Liam is completely familiar with the scenario he's in. He's going into a compound where a bunch of soldiers are around with protective areas, high powered weaponry, and anything and everything that is needed to defend this very small area from any outside threats. And as he tries to get into this compound, he is checked, and as he can see by the soldiers, he can see that Liam is no threat to them, so he gets put into the compound with his dog Luna. But then, as you can tell from behind, somebody else tries to get in, and he is immediately executed because they suspect him to be quote-unquote marked, which is best to assume that they think he's possibly a leaker. Liam goes around the compound and he runs into this mysterious figure who actually tries to help him out by giving him some bread while he was only able to afford one, and he was forced to give it to Luna because she kind of jumped in and ate it without his knowledge, but she decides to hand him a free piece of bread for his benefit because she wanted to get to know the little kid here. And Liam begins to trust this hooded figure because Luna, as he states in this chapter, is a good judge of character. So he is more likely to trust someone if Luna likes a person a lot. And as she is asking him questions, she finds out that he has no family, he has no friends, all he knows is survival. And basically getting a glimpse on his tuning ability, he always knows what's going to happen next, so the only thing he can do is run away from everything, run away from any possible danger. But while talking to her, a random leaker actually breaks into the compound, and a bunch of heavily armed, who I'm assuming high-ranked hound creators or people who are in a different branch of hounds, because this is before the hound program was created, who come in to defend the compound against these leakers. And these are these badass looking guys with samurai swords, assault weaponry, snipers, heavy armors, and axes and hammers. It's some of the sickest designs I've seen in a while when it comes to, I just really like the designs of how they look. And they get to work washing all of these leakers in this one panel. They're going crazy, slashing everyone. And of course we got this little weirdo in the background. I don't know who this man is. This man is made of teeth. He's all just teeth. I don't know why you just got a teeth man, Corey. What is this? But these characters seem to have this liberated, patriotic feel to them, showing how they are standing in the name and liberating everyone in the name and glory of Sonata. But while they are fighting, obviously Liam is hiding in a garbage can, and while he's hiding in there, before he gets attacked by a random leaker that seems to stumble upon this garbage can, he escapes and he runs away with Luna. but he gets hit with the garbage can because the leaker decided to throw and lob the most 3-point line shot, biggest one he's ever done in a while, and slams Liam with that garbage can. And in the midst of him trying to escape, he thinks he's stuck. He can't get away. Unfortunately, he just tells Luna to run away, but Luna decides to stand and defend him. And as he begs and pleads, Luna decides to stand there and still bark, and he activates his tuning ability, which I'm assuming is for the first time, killing this leaker instantaneously with a black hole. After the attack, we got the hooded figure coming up right in front of Liam again, and of course this hooded figure reveals that this is actually Madame Dean in the present, and her name is Reen. Liam started looking up to her so heavily from a very young age, so he really loved her from the very start and wanted to join her and in her ranks right after all of the debacle of all of these epic fights with the leakers in the beginning section. And she actually accepts him, taking him with her and putting him under her wing and making him join her squadron, which was Squad 7. And after that, we jump into chapter 22. We are now a few years after chapter 20, and now Liam is 12 years old. In the very beginning, he was 7, now we are a few years after. And he is on a mission with Reen right now, dealing with this massive monstrosity of a dragon leaker. And he has been waiting for the order to go and help Reen while she's on the ground fighting this epic leaker. But seeming that the fight is becoming too dangerous for her to extract from the actual battlefield, Liam of course naturally disobeys a direct order and decides to jump in at the very last moment and kills the leaker in one shot, saving Reen from a timely death or demise. And from his words, he says he refuses to watch her die in any capacity. Now, of course, Reen is not the biggest fan of him disobeying a direct order, but Liam explains himself, saying that he understands her role as being the captain of the squadron, and her being captain knows that she puts others' lives above her own, and all he wanted to do was to follow in her footsteps and do what she does. As they return back to the compound, or the pound in this called in the manga, Reen explains that Sonata has been expanding its efforts to kill leakers in the Dark Frontier. I'm not fully understanding what the Dark Frontier is. I think that's just a thing that might get explained later, because I don't think it gets explained now. And she understands that her forces and a lot of the Sonata forces are being stretched thin because of all the amount of leakers that are starting to spawn. So she decides to offer a solution, and she calls it the Hostile Organism Undercover Neutralization Division, or in this case, HOUND. So basically, over the last 5 years, the research has shown that a single N-born recruit has the power of one-man army. So a team with having multiple people like Liam would be considered unstoppable. And of course, Liam is trying to understand what she means, and she explains that she will be putting him on another team around kids his age, and he won't be able to be on a team with her anymore. So at first he thinks that she's punishing him for disobeying her orders and just taking him off her team as a punishment, when in reality that's far from the case. She is trying to push him to have higher goals, higher aspirations, to reach closer to the goal of him becoming a captain. Because even though his goal originally was to be the captain of her squadron, but simply she doesn't want him to be funneled and only be constrained to her team. She wants him to spread his wings and to become a future leader for Sonata, and to be an aspiration for the new soldiers and fighters and possible hounds in the future. And all she's saying is that she believes in him and his ability to be a really great captain in the future. And after that conversation, she introduces him to the First Class, like Marvel's First Class or the X-Men's First Class, and he meets the new kids that have different abilities as well. The first person he's introduced to is Nala, some very high energy blonde haired young girl who gives off this high energy, knuckle-headed energy that Liam is not completely used to. He thinks she's completely unserious about everything. And from the very beginning, they already start butting heads. He's trying to be the serious type, trying to show the importance of being a strong leader from a very calm standpoint without being this knuckle-headed person, while in reality, Nala is trying to be a little bit more drawn back and to try to make fun of him because he thinks he's too much of a stick in the mud. As they argue, they are now lined up by their captain or their leader, who is Lars. Lars is the coach, I believe, in a later point in the series, who's in the present day. And as they're lined up, he's going to say who is going to be the captain of this team. And at first, Liam thinks he's going to be the one that's selected because had this massive conversation with Reen and with Madam Dean and is saying, yo, I'm prepared for you. I believe in you for being a great captain. So he thinks he's going to be the one selected. But unfortunately for him, the next leader he's going to get, the leader that was selected, was Nala. So of course, Liam is mad as hell. He was expecting to become the captain, and Nala is kind of just rubbing it in his face a little bit. Not entirely, she's kind of just having this smug personality to herself. And they are about to go into a sparring match because this is their training grounds. And of course, naturally, Liam and Nala are the first ones to fight each other. And of course, she's talking a little shit, being a little bit conniving to him. Basically telling him, oh, I hope your tuning is a lot stronger than your handshake because of a weak handshake he gave her when they first met. And of course, Liam is not having none of it. He's taking this fight mad seriously. And he straight up just tells her to her face, says, captains have to be the strongest. So he's basically giving her a caveat. If he beats her in this match, I'm going to take your place as captain. And Nala takes that challenge full force and says, you got a lot more energy than I gotta give you for. So they about to go in an epic match towards each other to see who's the strongest. And they have this awesome fight. Liam throws his sword, she dodges. She has these abilities that seem to be like light manipulation or sun manipulation or something like that. And Liam is not, trying very hard in the very beginning. He's thinking he's going to wash her. He's saying, look, you don't deserve this title. You're not as strong as I think you are. And Nala gets hit with the same thing that Fang got hit with in the tournament arc, and she's being held down by the gravity of a black hole that he has. And he's thinking like, yo, give up or I'm gonna crush you. And she's like, bro, are you done? Because let me show you why I am captain. And she boosts up her power. She becomes like this Super Saiyan looking variant of her abilities, and she slams him into his rib cage and starts flying out of the compound. And in the outside of the compound, Liam is begging her to let go, like, hey, let's stop this. And she's like, look, it's okay, open your eyes. And you get a beautiful frame of them in the sky watching the sunset or the sunrise and the skyline and the horizon. And basically she is just trying to tell him, look, this is my dream. And Lars says, once I serve my time, I'll be free to fly for the rest of my life. And she knows that being captain is Liam's dream and his goals. So she says, have my back until you gain your aspirations and achieve your goal. And he's like, fine, all right, deal. And as they fall to the sky to their doom because she runs out of power, and he decides to activate a new ability using the science of black holes and uses a black hole to teleport back to the compound. And the chapter ends off with Luna running up to Nala and licking on her face, making it clear that Luna likes Nala, so that makes her character a lot more credible to Liam. Now we're on chapter 23, part 3, and it's a few years after, and the Hound team is about to jump on one of their last missions. That's right, their last mission. So this is implying that they've gone on a bunch of missions already. Everyone jumps out of the plane, and you get everyone's tuning abilities right in front of you. You get Nala's, which is called Nova, which I'm pretty sure is related to some form of sun manipulation. We all already know Liam's with Singularity. Caleb is Geokinesis, which I believe is some form of earthbending. Then we have Menokinesis with Lucky, which is I believe is a manipulation of other people's memories, not necessarily mind control. I do not know exactly how that power is useful, trust me, but in the fights we kind of get an understanding, but whatever. And then we have Amara with Refraction, which I believe is some form of invisibility or sun refraction off of her body. In this fight, the team are fighting off this giant Godzilla looking leaker, and the frame shows off how their teamwork synergizes with each other and how they all are on the same wavelength almost on every time in any fight and on their missions, especially with Nala and Liam, as the both of them have each other's back no matter what. And after destroying the leaker, the next day, Reen and Lars take Nala and Liam out on a special vacation, a special treat, and they show off the new Eden Academy being built, showing where their team is going to be going on after that and how they are going to become leaders for their own teams. But as they go past that new Eden Academy, after talking to each other, trying to figure out what's going on, they are taken to Sonata Land. And Lars basically confirms with Nala, saying, hey, look, you guys did good, you guys did great. And Reen points out that she wants the kids to still able to be kids. And Lars points out that Nala is very close to being free. So she's very close to achieving her dream and wants her to soak in every moment until that point. And she gives them a big hug, thanking them for this opportunity. They have a lot of fun at the amusement park and everyone has a good day, everyone's happy. And then the next day or the next few days after, it's moving day. And the team is going their own separate ways, packing their stuff, and they're preparing to go into the New Eden Academy, and they're waiting for the call of who their teammates are going to be and when they're going to become new captains. And of course, Liam is excited. He's waiting for the names that's going to get posted and when the teams are going to be named and whether or not and who is he going to be leading. And as the teams get put out on the screen, he sees that he's on Alpha Team, but he is not the leader. Nala's the leader and he's just under her, so he's going to be under another person again. And of course, Liam is frustrated and annoyed and he doesn't understand why he isn't a leader. He doesn't understand why that he was put on a team where he is the captain. And he just starts to doubt his abilities, thinking that he just isn't good enough to be a captain. And he thought that Reen believed in him enough to be able to get that goal. But now we are on the first day of class and everyone is there. Liam is all spiffy with his sweater jacket and tie, while Nala's in her flame t-shirt, and in her same old laid-back personality. And they are so excited about being there that they're even excited when they run into their very first own school bully. They're very happy about that experience. Now, as everyone is beginning to separate and go meet their own teams, Nala is very happy and is putting on a very good feel personality for everything, but Liam is not. Liam is not happy. Or in essence, he wants to be firm. He wants to be serious. He wants to be straight to the point without any unserious aspects being added. Re-emphasizing to Nala that despite her wanting to make a good impression on her teammates, Liam is only here to kill leakers. He does not care to make any new friends, and he cannot afford any distractions. Basically, he wants to go forth and go full throttle on trying to achieve becoming a captain, thinking he needs to do more to earn his spot. And now we get introduced to our new classmates. We got Alexi, I believe, Jet, and then Noel. And Nala is, very happy, being all warm to them, and Liam is just brooding in the background. And before anything realistically can get started, Nala's already disturbed about the reactions of the students, because she shouts out to them, he's like, "Alright everybody, are you ready to kill some monsters?" And they're like, "Do what now?" They don't fully understand what they just signed up to do, and they don't even know what they're here for. So she decides to walk through everything. What is a leaker, what they do, how they kill people, running through day-by-day training, showing them the suits, showing them how they were supposed to do through their day-by-day, and she clearly can see that something is wrong. But not too long after that, on day 3, of course, Nala's still on her happy side, and Liam is saying, "You're taking this stuff still too lightly. You're taking everything way too unseriously. Why are you treating this like a game?" She's trying to point out to her that their lives are at risk. You lightening the mood is not going to make things any better while they're in the field. Liam decides to compare her to Reen and how she decides to take this task very seriously, and how she trained everyone to be prepared for death on any mission that they go on. And she didn't do that by lightening the mood or cracking jokes or doing anything to alleviate anyone of any uncomfortable feelings. He continues to point out that he was running for his life against these leakers for a long time. He felt fear for these creatures for a very long time, and he doesn't believe she can understand the fear that he went through, and believes that that fear should be put into these new recruits and how they must understand that leakers are not to be messed with. And in a moment of true and utter frustration, he decides to have like a hostile takeover and takes over being captain temporarily away from Nala, and then Nala kind of sheepishly and disappointedly relinquishes her title to Liam. He then groups up their team and he's going to take them through a training simulation where there will be no physical danger, but they will have to treat it like it's an actual threat, and he is going to lead them on this attack. Him emphasizing that they should follow his lead, follow his instructions, and they will be able to survive and have an effective and proper mission. And he seems to have this smug look or happy look that he's going to go through this mission unscathed without any major problems. But naturally, as the simulation starts, the leaker is going crazy and his teammates are not helping him. In fact, they're practically worthless, useless. They're not helping him as much as he thought they would, and they're not listening to his instructions. And he doesn't understand why they won't listen to him. He doesn't understand why they won't take their lead with him and actually become forces of nature against this creature. And while he's distracted in his despair, he gets caught by the leaker and grabbed, and he yells out to his team to retreat. But in the last moment, Nala decides to jump in and decides to help him and save him at the last moment. And she decides to give them a rousing speech, pointing out that Liam has saved her life so many times and began to believe that every leaker that she's ever faced is where she would die, but she knew that she would survive because he was on her side. And of course, the teammates kind of gains a little bit some more nerve under their belt, got a little bit of a fiver under them, and they actually go on to this mission to have a lot better motion. And after that, everyone decides to have their quick moment. Everyone synergizes and defeats the simulated leaker in no time, as Liam and Nala kind of make up in the midst of the fight as they grow up and actually start to team up again in the last moments, defeating the leaker and completing the simulation effectively. But after the simulation is done, everyone leaves and separates and everyone calms down, and only Liam and Nala are together. Liam decides to admit that he was being a jerk and apologizes to her deeply. He felt bad. He understood that she was actually doing a really great job of being a captain, and he was just so frustrated. He was just so frustrated that she was living his dream, and he didn't feel like it was worth hurting you saying those hurtful things in the first place. And then Nala decided to admit that the reason why Liam wasn't a captain on another team is because she requested for him to be on her team. Basically explaining herself that ever since they met each other, she was already nervous before she even met him, how everything was going to go, and she felt like she was going to go through this entire experience alone. And when she met him and they decided to become closer as friends, as partners, as teammates, she felt like that she wasn't ready to say goodbye to him on any team at that moment in time. So she was prepared to actually step down as being a captain and find a new team. But Liam decides to refuse that offer and says, look, I don't mind you being captain. In fact, I'll become a captain at a later point in time. And basically he suggested, why don't we just both decide to become great leaders and lead together? So together they can become a really great team no matter what team they're on. And he basically suggests to build a new kind of partnership and asks her out on a date to an arcade. Which brings us to the end to that chapter. Now we're on the second to last chapter, chapter 24, part 4 of the Night of Eden, and Liam is losing his mind. He is panicking and he ran to Madame Dean or Reen, talking about and asking questions, what do girls like? Because this man asks a girl out on a date and he don't know what to do. But of course, Reen does her best to help him out, give him a bunch of outfits, put him in some clothes, give him a little bit of advice. And Lars decides to hand him off with a little bit of a card to have some money and says, take her to the arcade, take her where you need to go, and buy her some nice things. Just don't spend all my bread in one spot. And buy her some food like some burgers or something like that. He also says to give her a gift, and he actually bought a little bit of a gift for her to hand her on the date. And this man, Liam, is standing outside waiting for her and is confused and doesn't understand why he can't handle taking a girl out on a date while he massacres monsters on a regular basis. Of course, this man sees her pull up in her date fit and she's got that little tomboy girlish fit, which seems fitting for her character, the kind of fit that she's wearing. And they just jump into it and they're acting normal like they usually do. They're playing, having fun at the arcade. They're kind of using their tunings to cheat the system and get a bunch of tickets and get a bunch of prizes, and they're having a bunch of fun, and it feels within character for them to have this little bit of a date and actually enjoy themselves at this moment. But after the date, they all decide to end everything at a park, sitting on a bench and talking about how this is probably one of their best days of their lives compared to the first day that they met, which was probably considered the best day of their lives. And after everything decides to calm down, Nala decides to ask Liam an interesting question. And she asked him, what does he want to do after they graduate? And he says he doesn't really know. He says he always been destined and believed that he should be a captain, so he thinks he'll just continue being a hound after he graduates and he'll be a hound for good. Or at least he believes that that's all he's good for. But Nala jumps up and says, no, you're a more than just a hound, you're a person, and people can choose their own destiny. So clearly she's having this visceral reaction, and she basically asks him, would you ever run away with me? And he says, where is all of this coming from? Like, why would we just disappear? Because there's a bunch of people depending on us. And of course, she backs off and she says, you know what, you're right. I'm just got a little bit too excited for the future. And he's preparing to possibly give her the gift because he doesn't want to make this moment sour any more than it already is. But before he can do it, he is interrupted because she gets a call from Madame Dean or from New Eden. And she quickly has to kind of end their date for a brief moment and run back to the academy. Now, while Liam is waiting for her, all of a sudden she bursts out of the office where Madame Dean is, and she's screaming, telling Liam to stop her. He follows behind her and she grabs onto him and he's saying, yo, what's going on? Everything is going crazy. Why all of a sudden are you running away from Madame Dean? And she blasts the building behind them. And all she said is like, our new team coming in blind in the very beginning didn't sit right with her. And she ran through a lot of the coach's files and met with the dean to confirm the truth. And Liam is trying to understand, what truth? What are you talking about? And she said, Liam, we will never be free. We have no future. And then Liam is trying to understand her viewpoint and said, that can't be true. Are you sure about that? And she said, every dead hound and leaker are designated to be sent to an abandoned facility that was once known as Sonata Labs. Which brings us back to the chapter or the earlier chapters that talks about Sonata Labs, where we had the detective and his brother-in-law going to that lab and trying to solve everything at the initial darkest night. She believes that all of the secrets and the truth of everything is going to be in that building. So Nala is preparing to change into her suit and actually go to that location and expose everything to the world. And then Liam is trying to push back on her, saying, it's like, what exactly is your plan? That's your only plan that you have? Because the village that he lived, Bleakers were common knowledge and it was hell. And compared to that, New Eden was considered a paradise to him. But Nala is screaming at the top of her lungs and just explained, it's all a lie. None of this was ever real. Shedding light on them is the only way to fight back. And my boy Liam is heartbroken. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's just trying to say, like, look, this is a fight that ourselves can't win. And Nala goes back and pushes back, saying, Coach, Madam Dean, me, we all care about you. And he's basically saying, bro, like, then just stay. Like, if we all cared for each other, then that has to mean something more than just going on this escapade for this fight. And he's just basically begging her to just please stay so we can continue and figure this out. But Nala is standing on business in this moment and saying, look, as a captain, I'll blaze a path forward for all of us. And I can't turn back now. She basically confirmed that, like, yes, I have been too lighthearted about this. I haven't been taking this as seriously that I should have been. And she's basically asking him to just believe in her. Now, Madam Dean and all these different people are shouting at him to go and stop her as she flies out of the top of the compound. Now, Lars comes on to intercom saying that she's gone rogue, and basically he's telling Liam to stay put, that is an order, don't do anything off the cuff. And of course, he decides to say no, because he looks into the future and he can see that something bad is about to happen to Nala, and he needs to catch up and go save her. So he decides to deploy his outfit, and as the team are coming in and as everyone is cutting on the intercom, they're saying, Liam, stop. These bots, the sentry bots, are a military grade. They won't hesitate to kill you if you resist, because they're just trying to keep him into the compound. But Liam is saying, neither will I. And he decides to face off against all of these evil robots, or robots that have been sent to hold him still. And the robots are saying, hey, you ain't gonna fight through us. And all he says is, watch me. And the chapter ends there. Now we're going on to the very final chapter of Monster Remake Volume 3, Chapter 25, Night of Eden, Part 5. Now in this chapter, he makes quick work of the robots. Doesn't take him very long to take them down very quickly, in a matter of seconds. And as he finishes them off, Madam Dean pulls up and says, I don't want to fight you, bro. But then Liam doesn't want to fight her either. He's asking her questions. He's saying, is Nala telling the truth? Are the orders correct? Madam Dean doesn't reply, and then Liam lunges at her saying, look, don't lie to me. Liam asks her again, what is she talking about? Is she telling the truth? And then Reen talks about it was to test the viability of N-born as soldiers. And then Liam knocks her back, saying, so you raised us and trained us and treated us like your own, all because of some mission. Thinking that all of the sincerity, all of the happiness that they've gone through is all fabricated for some overarching mission. Well, Madame Dean says no, that was never her intentions. She said eventually Sonata wanted to conscript all eligible N-born, so I created the Hound program. So that way she can have the ability to socialize, educate, to become normal people, to live normal lives. But Liam understands that they're just forcing innocent children into these dangerous scenarios, and he understands that there most likely will not be an end to it. So he decides to force his attack forward and snapping her katana blade that she was blocking him with before. And he doesn't continue. He doesn't have any intention of hurting or killing Reen. All he wants to do is to go after Nala. And all that happens is that Reen just basically said, I never thought they would turn it into this. Basically pleading with Liam, that's like, you have to believe me. This was never my dream. I never wanted it to become something like this. So Lars pulls up behind Liam and puts a gun to his head and says, don't move, Liam. Please, these tranquilizer darts are going to do some massive work on you. And you know I won't hesitate to shoot. Use your foresight. You know that. This man was trying to gaslight him, saying like, bro, I will shoot you. And then Liam turns around. He's like, then do it, bro. And of course, he knows good and well he ain't gonna shoot him. He's not stupid. Not too long after that, Liam ends up finding a way to using his tuning to teleport out of the compound, despite Reen screaming at him saying it's impossible for him to do that, thinking he can't do that again. But at this point in time, Liam knows good and well that he can go to that location, and he activates a black hole going straight to Sonata Labs, because all he cares for is to go save Nala and have her by his side. He gets to the location and he's wondering, hey Nala, where you at? Let me find you. He hears fighting in the distance and he goes towards it. He looks up to the sky and he sees Nala. She's flying in the air through the building, destroying the compound above him. They meet eyes and then Nala panics, saying, Liam, what are you doing here? And Liam is fine. He's relieved that he actually can see her. He says, I'm so glad she's okay. My vision was, before he can finish the statement, because he knows good and well he's going to say he thought his vision was wrong, a massive and horrible explosion nukes behind him, explaining that it's seeming like Nala was trying to destroy everything behind her as she was running away, and Liam just happened to get in the way. She grabs him and saves him, but as you can see, she kind of got burned and singed in the process, and they got knocked out of the building. Realizing now that because of Liam's vision, he is the reason why Nala ended up getting badly hurt, because he went to go save her. And he's begging and pleading, saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this to you. And he asked her what happened in there, what's going on, and all she said is that if I told you, they would hunt you down too. And she basically claims it's better if she ends with her and nobody else knows. And while she is bleeding out on the ground, she decides to take his hand and hand him a gift that she has been holding on since their date that she wanted to hand to him, similarly to the ring that he wanted to give to her. And you get the very sad frame of this man just apologizing, and I'm saying, I'm sorry that I did this to you. But Nala says, it's alright, don't apologize, because thanks to you, I finally felt what freedom felt like. I actually got the dream that I always wanted, and felt like I was flying again. And unfortunately, she dies on the scene. And not too long after she dies, you have this extraction crew that pulls up, this cleanup crew. And Madame Dean and Lars are not too far behind, saying, yo, this cleanup crew was never acquired. This was never sanctioned. And the crew just says, fallen hounds are not your jurisdiction. Vacate the area. But Lars says, but she's my little girl, which I believe is supposed to be a slight reveal that Nala is supposed to be Lars's daughter, which a part of me feels like a little bit strange, but I'll talk about that later. And Madame Dean is talking about, I built this program, I have a duty to these kids, I have the choice to do this, but the team basically says she is Sonata property, and Madame Dean and Lars have no jurisdiction, they have no power here, and they basically said, then you should have had a better job at taking care of them. You should have done a better job of keeping them safe. And all of a sudden, they're just wailing and crying on the ground as Liam is mourning the death of Nala. Then, after the events, I'm not sure how long after, it doesn't really say, Madam Dean announces that there has been a kill switch that has been installed in your new battle suits, and then the Alpha team is now going to be led by Liam. And of course, the teammates are asking, hey, where's Nala? And all Lars is saying as the coach is that she has been relieved of duty. And while this man is looking dead inside, everyone is cheering and giving him praise for finally becoming a captain. And then we jump back into the future where the machine that's in the detention with him asks him, did you find this discipline to be sufficient? And Liam replies, not even close. And the machine, or the AI, says defiance is detected and recalibrating for another round, meaning this man is going to sit there for a little bit longer. And that is the entirety of Volume 3 for Monster Remake. And honestly, I'm going to say this right now. These chapters are considered the best chapters, I think, in my personal opinion, in all of Monster Remake so far, because I liked the Tournament of Power kind of aspect in Volume 2, but I did feel like the pacing from Volume 1 to Volume 2 felt kind of off because we're kind of like zooming through these introductions of characters. We only got a little bit of an introduction to Jabari in Volume 1 and to Volume 2 with the powers being used and all these other characters. Volume 3, as we got closer to the end, felt like a good slowdown, giving us a pacing and giving us an understanding of the background that we're in. Because so far that we fully understand, Sonata is just evil organization number 5, or number 1 I should say. I say number 5 is like the arbitrary random evil organization, but Sonata is supposed to be an evil organization, and we do not know who the head is. All we know is that they have a multitude of influence throughout the city, and a lot of people do a lot of evil things or questionable things just because of the existence of Sonata, given the detective, given the hounds, given a lot of these different characters. And they are obviously living under the mantra of being a liberating and glorifying society, meaning that they're supposed to be good in some aspects, but has a dark undertone of organization about it. And we get to finally see some direct influence on how it affects certain characters like Liam. Liam is one of the main people. Jabari, we understand it affects Jabari, but Jabari doesn't fully understand what's going on. Jabari is still relatively oblivious to the great evils that are around him, and all he wants to do is protect his family. But he doesn't seem to really care about looking for answers, he just cares about the protective aspects. The only people so far that has done any research is September and Han. Which brings me to the feel that I have with this overarching villain of the story. I think something feels kind of off because it's supposed to have these darker undertones, because it's supposed to a degree say, oh yeah, it's supposed to protect kids or protect people from leakers. And then they have the Hound program finding people who are N-born, children born with tunings because of the darkest night, and they join to become hounds to fight and kill leakers for an extended period of time. But then later on, when, they build the academy and they're bringing more people in, and it seems like they're intentionally not telling some of these new kids about what they're getting into or what they're signing up for, it adds this weird thing for me. I don't know if I like it or not, because I don't think it's bad. I think it's a little bit, because it doesn't feel like it connects the overarching threat very well, because we kind of just jump from being like, oh, everyone's happy and go lucky, and then all of a sudden now we're dealing with the evil of Sonata and how the darkness of New Eden and how Sonata is controlling everything and hurting people. Like the Nala backstory, where we get to the point where Nala is saying, oh, she wants to be free, and we don't get any real understanding what she means to be free from. What I think is like, okay, she wants to be free from fighting leakers or free from protecting anyone. She wants to be able to live a normal life in general. I think that's what the essence of what her character is supposed to be, because Liam doesn't mind living in that system because that's the purpose he got because of Reen. And when he learned more about purpose of life when he met Nala, that's when he started questioning more things and seeing how much more value you could have as a person. And then we get introduced to other side points of the story, like Lars seemingly to be related to Nala. So I'm assuming Nala is supposed to be his daughter, because he claims her to be his little girl. Obviously, in the beginning chapters, he calls her protege, so I'm assuming he's very attached to her. But he calls her a little girl, so I'm like, okay, maybe she's like the long lost daughter, but he never told her. But I'm like, you kind of let her become a hound and now she's dead and you didn't really try and stop her, blah, 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 blah. I'm not entirely sure. Now, obviously, we're in volume 3. The story is supposed to be ramping up soon. I think one of the issues I have with the volume so far is that we're on volume 3, but we are not super into, I might say, the beginnings of what the main threat is supposed to be, because we have leakers, and we know that there are some leakers who have some form of cognitive ability outside of just being mindless monsters when we get introduced to Zuri running into these guys, which I'm assuming they're leakers. From what I can understand, they're kind of reminding me of how Evos work in the series generator Rex. Evos can turn into these massive monsters because of nanites, but Rex is the only person who is able to use a different kind of nanites that allows him to use these mechanical abilities. But there are other Evos who are kind of like Rex, who are infected, but they can speak cognitively, they have special abilities, they're stronger in different ways, and manipulate nanites differently. So I'm assuming they're kind of going that route. But it also seems to have this undertone of trying to talk about this organization having these evil intentions and have such a great effect on the world, but we don't really see the effect of the world. We see it affecting individual characters. We see it affect Jabari and Liam, but we don't really know too much about how it affects Han or September, maybe Allison, or a little bit of September, a little bit. I think in the previous chapters in volume 1 or 2 talks about how she has like a backstory, but they haven't really dived into it. Now, what I hope in the next volume, when they are going into it, we're going to focus heavily on Jabari and his journey of trying to actually solve everything and going against the Sonata organization, because I want to see more of how this builds up, because I do believe the pacing of the story is kind of making the story suffer. That's why I like these chapters more, because it actually slows down, and I think he needs to slow down just a little bit more when we're doing these stories, just a little bit, because from volume 1 to volume 2 we get a lot of information. From volume 1 to volume 2, we get a lot of information fast, and like I said before, in volume 1, some parts of the mangas are hard to read, and some moments, even when I read even the newer volumes, they're not bad, but I sometimes have to reread a frame or two to understand. I'm like, okay, how did we get to this position? Now he's improved, trust me, it's gotten a lot better, so it's not as noticeable, but volume 1 was a very noticeable. For the positives of volume 3, the art is top tier. There's many frames that look really good with Liam, with Nala, with the Hounds, with the other squadrons before the Hounds were created, some of the leaker designs. It looks really good. I do like them talking about the backstory of Liam, because obviously he's going to be a very crucial point in the story. He's going to be probably the rival or best friend to Jabari outside of Han. He's going to be the main person who's going to drive the story forward. He actually might be one of the focal points of the story. That's probably why they have these chapters, which I completely agree with. That's actually fine. Even though Jabari is our main character, they need to have someone to help push it forward outside of Jabari. Like in Naruto wasn't the main one finding information, unless in the later on in Shippuden. The people that helped find information was Kakashi and Sasuke and all these other people to help bring these moments to him. Now, is it the greatest choice of ways to push your story forward? I'm not entirely sure. I personally do not mind it. I can understand that other people may not like it, because I have seen other videos of people talking about how they don't like the progression going. But for me personally, I don't mind it. But I think to help bring more people into it in terms of negatives in some aspects, they should really lean more into the main character and how he faces off against the organization of the leakers, how he becomes stronger, all these different things. Because so far, as much as Jabari, we got the personality of Jabari, who is this knuckle-headed, he wants to face off against oppression kind of character, who wants to fight off against these people who are trying to hold him down and pull his family into this disadvantageous position and use them as leverage for blackmail and for control for his actions, and he seems to just be put in his position against his will. So of course, seemingly, I'm pretty sure part of this story is going to have Jabari and a lot of these other characters in the push to take down Sonata and hopefully turning New Eden in some kind of resistance. At least that's what I'm imagining. I'm not sure that's how they're going to go. But I do like the fact that they show that Sonata has some form of a heartless aspect. They're just living off of just strict corporation guidelines. They move quick and effective, and they don't care about the feelings of other characters who are trying to have this moralistic view on the things that they're trying to do. Sonata doesn't seem to care about that. They only want people to go in, fight the leakers, and move on. That's why they don't mind having characters like Nala die and just treats her like some kind of random log and piece of trash on the floor. But obviously the best thing in this chapters or in these chapters is Liam actually having some form of characterization, showing how he became the very much stickler person that he is, how down to earth, how monotone, how bland he is, and how he actually acts against other people who disrespect the title of captain. Now, I do believe it's kind of off to think that he was willing to jump into a fight against Fane, this character who's boisterous, who doesn't care about the words that he says, he just says what he wants to say, and Liam got affected to him so badly that he wants to fight him. But then part of it was he had a phone call and he seemed to be already on edge, so a part of it might be he just wanted to blow some steam off and that just aggravated it, so I'm not sure. But otherwise, these were great characterizations for him. I love the fact that he was a scared little kid and he was just surviving this entire time, and he becomes this hardened captain because of all these events, to the point that he didn't mind living this soft, cushy life and joining and becoming one with Nala, probably living a long life together for the foreseeable future without having to fight these evil creatures forever. But obviously they don't get that luxury because they are property of Sonata. The only real negatives I would say is really the pacing. Pacing is fine. I think the pacing is fine. It's a lot better compared to it. But I do think sometimes that they should hold on making like some scenes more than just one frame or so. Like in the beginning of chapter 21, I believe, or chapter 22, when they're showing the fights with the hounds jumping out on their last mission, or the fight with Liam and Reen in the first time when he joins her squadron, you don't really get to see much. You just get like 1 or 2 frames or one side panel of the fight, and that's pretty much it. You don't really get to see how cohesive the characters were. Like, I don't need it to be like 3 pages, but like, 1 more panel, 2 more panels, maybe 1 more page would be fine. But then again, that's just my personal opinion. I like seeing that kind of stuff because it helps me believe that he had this really great team. But then we don't really focus on those characters, so I don't really mind. But pacing wise, the manga is fine. I'm pretty sure some people might think it's a little bit too fast, because I can understand that, but I personally don't mind how it is. The only other negative I can understand is that some people might think it's still a little bit too generic, very simple. Liam is this used to be innocent guy who actually wanted to live a happy life, but he was hardened by the captain putting him in this place of purpose, giving him this purpose that he always wanted, and puts into question to everything, and then someone he actually cares about just dies, is, obviously it's not exactly the most unique thing on planet Earth, but I don't really particularly care about that. I just think it's cool. I just want to see what he does with the character further on, because I think the first 3 volumes are a good start. It's a good start, it's a good place to get your feet wet, and it shows to me that he's improving. So I just need to see him do maybe at least volume 4, and I'll see if it actually goes in a way that's better for the story and for the characters that I'm seeing. I also do want to say I think he should hold like flashback chapters closer either to the end. I don't know for sure. This is just a personal preference, because I think he usually likes to do this. I think in volume 2 or in volume 3 he did it. He starts out with a flashback chapter in the first chapter, and you get some credence and understanding of some of the characters. I think he should only do the flashback chapters when it seems to reference something relating to it. Like if they're talking about Sonata Labs, or they're trying to learn about something going on. Like when Han is learning about everything and he's talking to the detective when he's in the hospital, I wouldn't mind him kind of breaking down what kind of happened to him when he was younger, when he still had his brother-in-law, in a background chapter or in a flashback chapter after that. I wouldn't mind that, instead of it being just the very first chapter. I think he should also look at the order of how he's doing the chapters, because flashback chapters, they're not bad. Like the flashback chapters happening at the end, I don't mind that. That's perfect, because we just went through an epic fight with Liam in the middle of the chapter, and then he's being punished for having the activating little kill switch on him, and he's he's disobeying the rules of New Eden and all that good stuff. And as he's being punished, he starts thinking about his past. That I do not mind whatsoever. That's perfect. That's perfect progression. From the very beginning, having the first chapter be a flashback chapter, and they were back in the present and we're focusing on Jabari and Liam and we're not looking at the detective, it kind of shocks you into a different spot. It's not great flow. So I will definitely say that. But yeah, that's most of the things I have to say about Monster Remake Volume 3. I might do another video just breaking it down as a whole, but I think this is good enough. me talking about it in general, because that's how my general feelings about volume 3 anyways. I really enjoyed it. I'll probably give it like, again, like the last chapter, I think the last volume I gave it like a 6 out of 10, so this is like a good solid 7.5, maybe 7.6. like it's a good improvement. It's like a step higher, so I want to see more. I want to see if he like makes a big jump. I want to see how he actually does the pacing in the next volume, how he does the characterization for Jabari, for any of the other characters, and then moving forward from that. But yeah, let me know what you guys feel about Monster Remake Volume 3. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I know this one's a lot longer compared to the others, but I did not really feel like doing individual videos for each chapter because they're all just flashback chapters and I would have the same feelings anyways. So I just decided to just do this one whole video and get it over with. And I want to do more videos like this as well. Like, I don't mind doing my other content. I love doing those other content, but I also just like yapping about these mangas, these comics, these TV shows, these things as reviews or anything like that, because that's just where I thrive. I like talking about this stuff. Let me know if you guys want me to start doing it for mangas, for TV shows, because I plan to do a video for Diamonds in the Shadow Realm. I'm going to talk about that manga because the anime is going to be coming out very, very soon. So I'm going to be doing a video talking about that manga. I am reading it as we speak, so soon enough that video is going to drop very soon. And let me know what other comics and shows or mangas or animes you want me to talk about. I don't mind doing these kind of videos for reviews, for goofiness, because I don't want to just do fictional economics or rewrites all the time. I want to do other videos as well. But yeah, if you really liked the video, don't forget to like the video. It helps me out a lot. Don't forget to subscribe as well for even more content. Don't forget to check out my gaming channel as well. I'm trying to do at least daily videos on there, but don't quote me. I'm trying my best. I'm not the best content creator on planet Earth, and I don't got the best equipment. Let me know what other stuff you want me to review, either TV shows, comics, mangas, anything. I don't mind doing it. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm here for it. But yeah, it's your boy Kadukun. See you guys next time, and peace.
FMA, handle business, don't play. On point when it comes to the anime. Jack and Daxter, ayy, let's go. The ultimate heroes, don't stop, we on the road. Kadukun.
Yeah, welcome to the channel.